To Animation Lab. This is week 6. We're going to be talking about anticipation and overshoot this time. Moving on. Before we get there, let's talk a little bit about the server, this community. This is ToonCamp. We're a community of animators focused on helping you go from idea to finished project, with lots of free classes like these ones, events and workshops, some of which may be limited to supporting members. ToonCamp is part of SkillCamp, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, which aims at providing free and low-cost classes to help people master skills that they want to reach, personal life goals. New classes are coming soon, both free and for supporting members. So drop by the new servers and say hi and check out what they're offering over there. This is a very exhaustive list of things that are happening. I believe the Python bootcamp is still ongoing. It didn't just happen on November 20th. Other than these, there's boot camps and classes in script camp, word camp focusing on novels, film camp focusing on the craft of filmmaking, creator camp focused on content creation, tune camp on animation, code camp on coding. And while we're here, I also want to mention that starting December 1st here in ToonCamp, there's going to be a daily exercise, a sketch exercise, where a prompt will be provided every day, and people will be coming up with sketches or pieces based on the prompt to a reward of a couple script coins, I believe, which are the currency of the server. How to help SkillCamp? You can donate to become a supporting member to get access to all the boot camps and labs. You can volunteer to help teach and help communicate and convey new skills here at SkillCamp. Or you can tell your friends about SkillCamp to get both of you a free month of unlimited membership. So, back to Animation Lab. This is week 6 of Animation Lab. And before we get to the meat and potatoes of today's lab, let's talk about last week. How did last week go? Did you do the animation exercises? Did you have any difficulties? Any experiments, any things you tried, any clips you made, or any short clips from shows or movies that you saw that you'd like to share for discussion? The floor is all yours. Feel free to speak.
I did practice the ball drop, but Animate is doing some weird stuff, so I don't know. It's tweening really strangely. But anyway, I did practice, but I don't have a clip for you.
Okay, fair enough. Zuriel, I remember last time you were here, you even had like a little animation short. How's that project going, if I may ask?
Like, you mean the one I'm working on right now, or the one I showed you on the second week?
Well, you showed us something on the second week, but I thought it was all going to be part of one big project.
Well, actually, that one was just like a little test, sort of in a way. But I
Okay.
am working on another type of animation, which is basically a fight scene. I don't know how long it might be. I'm thinking it might be like a few minutes, maybe.
Okay. That's going to be a challenge. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be like that long. Maybe like two or three. Like I'm only guessing here, but like I do have like a storyboard of it.
Cool. If you ever want to bring it up, feel free to.
Mm-hmm.
We can have a look at it. So, there are no particular clips of the exercises. Oh wait, something just arrived. Hey, that's Mesh's exercise. Let's download it. That means Mesh should be joining very soon, I believe. Let's send this over to the correct folder. Alright. And let's open it. Okay. Okay. So, before we go into the assignment specifically, let's take a quick reminder of what they were last week. There were two easier exercises focused on squash and stretch. One of them was a bouncing ball, the classic, really. Could be either stationary or bouncing across the screen. The other easy exercise was a jelly cube falling onto the ground. A difficult exercise, however, was also in the list, which would be a change in a character's emotion, where the first and last key must represent different emotions. Since Mesh hasn't joined us yet, I'm going to go over... Yeah, I don't think I want to go over his thing without him being here. It's a little sad. Wait, where did it is? Yeah, it's here. It's here. Okay. So this is the bouncing ball. That's not what I want. Fine. Ooh, okay. We also have a short GIF that Mesh is also just submitted. That is cool. Let's put that in clips as well. I would really love it if Mesh would join now. Okay, let's just take a look at this. And let's get Epic Pen out. And let's just take a look at this repeating. Okay, it's really, really neat. Ooh, these are really, really neat. Okay. Okay. So, I'm seeing all of these. The application of squash and stretch in the ball seems really, really clean. Absolutely. The jelly cube is also really dynamic. We're going to talk about the expression here later. I like the camera movement though. Okay, so we can go over this frame by frame real quick. Ball is going real fast. Yes, that is smart. That's a good way to do. Okay. It bounces over there. Nice. Yeah, these matters of spacing and timing seem to be way, way cleaner than they were before. I like seeing this. Let's take this a little bit quicker. Going to be another one here. Next one goes here. Okay, welcome Mesh.
Hello. So yeah, sorry I'm late.
That's okay. I was just taking a quick look at your exercises.
Nice.
These are looking very good. The application, so first the issues of spacing and timing that we, and the little issue with the arcs that we mentioned last time, they're absolutely cleaned up here. These are significantly better. Yeah, and this is the high point. I did it improperly, but that's the high point. It should be like here. Also, I really like how when it hits here, you do make it a point to do it a little bit more like this. Because that's where the bounce is going to happen, the direction of the bounce. Overall, I don't think there's a lot to say here. You made a very bouncy ball. This feels like a rubber ball, I would say. Like those very, very soft rubbers. The only one that I think you could cut a single frame from is this point, because there's 3 frames here, and you don't need 3. You could probably cut either this one or this one. Other than that, the ball is just clean, really clean. The jelly cube is delightful as well. Let's clean that. Yeah, exactly. Stretches out real quick, then bounces back up. It's very dynamic, very well done. Both of these are very well done, and I was commenting as well that I enjoyed the camera movements as well. But yeah, that's the only thing, right? It's like because of the way you set this up, right? It takes 2 frames to go at to bounce at this speed. The bounce here just feels like it takes just a smidge too long. That's just it. But it's really good anyway. As for the face. Okay. This goes through like 3 faces. Goes through this very angry face, and it feels like it's kind of surprised. Yeah, because the eyes are stretching, and then it settles into like the happy face. Okay. So this is an exercise that you'd probably have done well to do separately, like as a separate video, or at least like after the ball.
Yeah.
Because you can very easily you can very much pull off this kind of, might be a bit easier to do happy to angry than to do angry to happy, because it has to be like, because for happy to work in this way you'd need it to be like really elated, like really, really happy, because I also like had this issue while I was doing my own exercise, which is that squash and stretch applies to what? To fast motions. It generally doesn't need to apply to slow motions. So if the change is subtle or not very emotive, there's not going to be a lot of squash and stretch in action. While the application here isn't incorrect, like you have a ball and the ball stretches and everything inside of it stretches as well, and then it squashes a little bit. It lacks a little bit of polish.
Yeah.
Because this should be the bottom of the position. Usually, because this goes into the overshoot that we're going to talk about today. when you're going so fast that you end up stretching and then you go and you squash, usually you're going to have to fall back a little bit, which means the other frame's going to be like this. It's not going to like do that. That's going to look a little weird because there's energy that needs to be let out from the squashing. And that energy is usually let out in the opposite direction. In terms of application, I can't really say that it's wrong. But at the same time, I can't really say that it's how can I say this? So you applied squash and stretch here very aptly. Just the spirit of the exercise it's a difficult one to get, and I'll admit that because I also had some issues figuring it out. That's why I ultimately ended up going for a surprise kind of thing, because it works well. It's like it's the kind of gasp moments. It's very emotive, and that tends to help. Because again, you squash and stretch in quick motion, so you want emotive actions, things that force movement, generally quick movement as well. That is the kind of thing you're looking for when you're doing these kinds of transitions. When you're doing these kinds of animations. That being said, this works fine within its own context as well. It just isn't a lot of character, you know?
Yeah. No, I totally understand what you mean. Yeah, and like, I just sort of did, I did that as kind of a last minute thing. Like, I was like, well, I've done the two easy ones, and I was like, well, maybe I'll try the face one. And I didn't spend as much time on that as I did the other ones. So,
I'm gonna be completely honest. When the camera panned up to this, I thought this was like a little Easter egg of sorts. I thought this was like angry face. It's a little funny.
Yeah. Well.
But yeah, I think that's generally it. I like seeing that the issues with the arcs and the spacings and timings are mostly pretty much ironed out by this point, at least in these simple motions. I assume that you were careful this time to pick the high points intentionally to make sure that the curves were cleaner. You knew what the arcs you were doing were. There definitely feels like there's more intentionality there, so keep that up, because you're gonna do that a lot more further here and out of the course if you do animation. You have to know the arcs you're working with. The jelly cube, it's really nice. I like that it stretches, that it squashes in 2 frames. It really makes it feel the kind of material that it's supposed to, because then it really also gets the energy to bounce back up, and I think that works really nicely. It just does a little adaptation back to ground shape, to solid form, I mean. Okay, so overall, ball, very good. Jelly cube, also very good. The face would probably need a little bit more time to be worked on. While we're here, I'm going to bring back the example from last week, the one that I ended up making, right? Because this is going to be a thing that I'm going to reinforce as well when we're going into the exercises this session. But it's going to be very, very important, because most exercises now are going to be about character animation specifically. It's going to be very important that a significant portion of the time is spent keyframing. Because the key to good animation is the good keyframes, is knowing that there are frames that you just can't skip leg day on. Some frames have to be as perfect as you'll allow them. Like, this frame has to be flawless, and this frame has to be flawless. And I actually sped up today's exercise example by bringing in a pre-prepared clip of 4 keyframes for what I'm going to do, because I spent like an hour and a half making sure these were good. And from here on out, the animation process can go a lot more fluidly, and I can fill in the rest very, very quickly. But it's very important that whenever you're doing more complex animation, that the keyframes are perfect. It is worth it spending the extra time to make sure that they're perfect, because you'll feel that at every stage of animation afterwards. Now, to bring in the little GIF. Ooh, okay. Okay, this is very good. So what are we looking at here?
It's so that were you asking like where it's from, or what we're actually seeing as animations?
I'm asking where it's from first.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a guy who's like famous on the internet sort of for doing little GIFs and YouTube videos, and he used to only animate on Flipnote, but I think he uses other stuff now. But he goes by the name Kike. He's a French guy, and this was a GIF that's just on his Patreon page. But yeah.
Quite frankly, this is a beautiful example of how to use squash and stretch, and a lot of exaggeration. You can see, like, you have, this is the model completely undeformed, and then like this is a very deformed pose. This is a breakdown, because you have this keyframe, the start one, then you have the second keyframe, which would be a couple of frames before this, just before he starts the spin. The next one, this would probably be a keyframe, and the spin is just very fast. Spin is very fast, but also very, very clean. Again, another very stretchy breakdown. This person exaggerates the movement up and down. You see how it see like how the body stretches as it comes down, and then it squashes all together. This is a beautiful example of squash and stretch, in theme with what we were talking. Obviously, that's also like not to mention the various like spacing and timing is flawless as well. The arcs here are also beautiful. You can follow the tail. The tail draws a pretty good arc. You can see how the tail flows down here and then goes around and up. Now it's just gonna go around the fox. Is that a fox? I think that's a fox. And then it goes up, so it goes around and then goes up. This is a really good way to visualize arcs as well. Hold up. Let me visualize it a bit better. And it's going to spin around. It's the last frame. this is not right. It goes like this, and it's gonna go turn around. This is very confusing. Point is, it's always a very soft curve. That's for the tail, which is obviously following the body. But if we were to map out the different points of the face, like map out the nose, and we go through this frame by frame, you're also going to see like really good arcs. You're seeing the slow ins and the slow outs, where the nose almost doesn't move, and slowing out and gaining speed. And in this case, the entire face is following the arc almost flawlessly. Because it's doing this. Also, this is a very good example of a morph that I tried to mention earlier as an exercise. Except in this case, it's morphing from itself to itself. It's just morphing from this position into this position. So the animator goes down this way and just stretches the entire face to ease from one to the other. This is squash and stretch also applied to create a morph, which is really, really neat. Is there anything in particular that you want to talk about this clip?
Well, I think you covered a lot of it. I mean, yeah, I guess, yeah, when you first look at this clip, it just looks so smooth and it's just like, there's just so much it seems so simple. It's like a simple character, but you know, when you try to like really break it down, there's so much going on, and I think you covered a lot of that. Like, I mean, yeah, there's so many frames where if you just freeze it on one frame, it just looks so like, you know, it's just, like there's certain frames where he's just completely deformed and weird, and but it's like it works so well in motion. So yeah, like that, like yeah, like that. It's just like you don't even notice that he's flattens that far, but yeah, like.
But it gets registered in the unconscious. But like you feel the motion, you don't see the frames. And that's exactly it. This is by no means simple, by the way. Do not get that idea from here.
Right, yeah.
This is not simple motion. This is very complicated. To the level this is done, this is very complex and very exquisitely executed as well. Very, very clean. Because the animator here is using every principle and very well. I'm not talking about anticipation, but you're seeing anticipation just as he then, like, the way he puts his feet down to prepare for the motions that are going to happen afterwards. Over here, when he's about to put his foot down to launch himself in the opposite way. You know, for example, that's anticipation in action. A lot of these squashes and stretches are also overshoots of the great exaggerations that are happening. The arcs of the tail and of the body and of everything are very, very clean and well executed. And then the secondary actions of the tail, the ears, the arms, even always following along to the main action of the dance, gives it a lot of life. It makes it really, really vibrant and lively. But it also makes it really complicated. This is not easy to do. By any means. Even with a simple model. This is basically 2 balls. This model is basically 2 balls and this. But it has to be, really, because if it were any more complicated, this would be so hard to do. This kind of motion. And if it were any more complicated, you wouldn't get away with the level of stretchiness even, because it would start feeling like the drawing would be a little more realistic, so the movement would feel a little weird being so cartoony. That's a different balance to strike. But yes, it would definitely be significantly harder. This is really, really well done though. If there's any question, any specific thing regarding this clip that you want to talk about, feel free. If not, I believe we'll be moving on.
Yeah, I think you covered it. Yeah, thank you for breaking that down.
Okay. In that case, let's move on. So, today we're going to be talking about anticipation and overshoot. There's a little example of what it is. It is, quite frankly, very, very simple in concept. Both of them. Anticipation is the preparation of a very fast movement. So if you're swinging a hammer, you gotta raise it up first. If you're kicking a ball, you gotta pull back first. If you're jumping, you gotta squat first. All these are actions that are very quick. You don't need to anticipate something that happens very slowly. If it's a very gentle head turn or very subtle change in expression, you don't need to anticipate it all that much. But if it's a very quick movement, then you do need to anticipate it, because otherwise things are going to be happening so fast that are going to become difficult to read. Overshoot is the conclusion to a very fast movement. So when you do something really, really fast, you tend to lose precision. That means that you're not going to go exactly where you want. You're going to go slightly over it. When you land from a jump, you're probably not going to be landing straight, perfectly still, perfectly standing up. Because you're going to need to that energy that you build up needs to go somewhere. And in this case, it's going to go to the ground. So you got to spring down. You're going to become a spring, compress a little bit, and then decompress to stand back up. In the case of the kicking of a ball, the other example that's also here on the screen, when you kick a ball, after the ball it leaves the foot is likely still going to be moving. It just gotta go somewhere, which means the movement isn't exactly over, even though the ball is no longer touching the foot. The foot's gotta overshoot, in this case the kick, and then it's gotta lose its energy somehow. In the case of the hammer, it's a little bit different because it's a collision. And in this case, if you're hitting the hammer on something, then the chances are that it might just slam against it. In that case, the energy can disperse in a different kind of way. And this is exactly the same. Why anticipation and overshoot? The reason for them is readability of very fast motions. In this case, a punch, and also strength. In this case, a punch, where if you don't wind up the punch first, then it's going to be unclear how it happens. And although you may realize it after, it's going to feel very weak. If you go straight from here to here, it's a very direct and kind of weak punch because you don't have enough time and space to really get that velocity. We're going to get some examples in a bit. Same for overshoots. These anticipations inform the audience of the movements that are happening, as well as the directions that they'll be happening along, because usually you anticipate in the opposite direction to the movement. Now these are a few other notes on anticipation. Because they are about preparing the viewer for something, they don't need to be specifically about one motion. Yeah, also, they don't need to be used all the time. That was what we were talking about before. Some movements are clear enough or subtle enough that they don't need it. But also, anticipation can be used narratively, because you can use it to draw the attention to a specific place to then have something happen there. Or you can have your character turn to the left and then cut to something where the object is going to be on the left side of the screen. That's also a way of using anticipation to create rapport between different shots, to create a narrative between the shots, to connect them. Okay, before we do this, I do have a few examples. This here. Oh, no, come back. This is the hammer example, where you need to wind it and then it smashes. This is you have then the first frame, the anticipation frame that actually holds for a very long time, and then the second frame. Here you have the jump. In this case, it's more of a Superman flying up. Exactly. It's the spring thing we talked about. The run. This is a very cartoony thing that happens somewhat often, which is characters winding up really far back in order to run really fast. And this is a comparison between something without anticipation and something with anticipation. You can have these almost instant movements, and it's not like you can't see exactly what happens. It just feels very sudden. With anticipation, on the other hand, you know what's happening. You know that there's something that's going to happen between the arm and the pocket, because both are made very clear. Exactly. Now I believe this is going to highlight it, or maybe not. Okay. Again, the thing of the strength. When you have a very quick and sudden punch down here, you have it's almost instant, feels very quick, very snappy, but also feels a lot like a slap. It doesn't feel like a punch, at least visually. It's just like a slap, really. Up here, you have a punch that's wound up, and so it's significantly stronger. You have 3 keyframes. The first keyframe, the anticipation frame, and then the ending, the second keyframe. In this punch example, let me go back to it. You also have then the overshoot, where the character then comes into a standstill again. Yeah, and this is a different thing, which is illustrating how even a singular motion can have multiple levels of anticipation. And these are the multiple keyframes that make it up. Leaning down to then pull back, and then as you're swinging the arm forward, you swing the other arm backwards to really give it as much punch as possible. And in this case, you have these three anticipation frames. This can happen, and depending on how much it's done, you'll be conveying more and more energy to the specific movement. that you're trying to anticipate. Now, I believe now are the narrative examples, where if you want to show something on the right, you can have the character look to the right, and then something can happen there. You anticipate the action on the right by having the character turn to the right. Speaking of character head turns, I want to make a note to look here real quick at how when you're doing a character turn, a head turn, the first thing that usually looks in the direction that the person's going to turn to are the eyes. Your head follows your eyes, usually, which means that before you turn your head, you're usually going to be turning your eyes. Your eyes are always anticipating the movement of your head by a couple of frames. And here you have the last example, little joke, where something's about to happen on the right, but then it happens on the left. It's where you flip anticipation on its head to create something unexpected. It's supposed to happen here, but then it doesn't. It happens on the other side. These are some examples of anticipation. So then, before we get into the exercises, are there any questions about anticipation and overshoots? Anything to clear up? Also, I will find and leave the link to that. That appears to be a no. This goes here. The video I posted in videos also does a really good job at explaining anticipation for anyone who's interested in some extra reading. I took the examples from there, some of them, but yes. So if there are no questions, then we are going to be moving on to the exercises, which this time are almost exclusively going to be about characters. For which I remind now, there is a turnarounds section in the animation lab category, which currently has turnarounds for Korra, Chihiro, Kuro, Nanachi, and Rita, that you're free to use for these exercises that involve characters. Some of them are simpler than others. I think there's a decent variety of styles here. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find a lot of Korra. I would have loved a head turnaround as well, but I couldn't. So yes. The exercises, the easy ones, are a new character head turn, this time with anticipation and overshoot, meaning that it's probably going to be a very quick head turn. Otherwise it wouldn't overshoot, and the anticipation also needs to be somewhat significant. Second exercise, a kick, a flour sack kicking a ball. Same thing as we as we mentioned all the way back here. This is a sample of how a kick can happen, except this isn't a flour sack. There's a ball, you gotta wind the foot down, then the kick happens, and then you gotta overshoot the movement of the foot. The difficult ones are a character standing up from a chair, because it's going to involve drawing the entire character. It's going to involve a lot of anticipation. The entire body is going to need to anticipate the movement, because it is a movement that requires some level of strength. You don't just stand up from a chair. and a character sneezing, because quite honestly, is there anything more obvious for this than a sneeze? Anything that is more clearly anticipated and overshot than a sneeze? I don't really know. It seemed like the best exercise for this. And there are so many sneezing references out there that it's not difficult to find one if you need to. Now, as I mentioned previously, before this, I did in fact prepare a couple of keyframes for this week, because otherwise I'd spend the entire class in keyframes and I wouldn't actually get any of the animation finished. So this is to say, make sure that you do your keyframes properly. They're going to take time, and that's okay. You should spend the time in keyframes. For each of these, you're going to need this one. The first one's going to need 3 or 4, because you need to account for the anticipation key and the overshoot key. The flour sack's going to also need 3 or 4. This one here might need, I mean, technically it only needs 4 as well. It might need 3 if you do it slow enough and you don't need an overshoot. And the character sneezing is always also going to need 4. Regardless, they need to be very well done, because if they are, you're going to see just how easy it is to actually take this from keyframes to finished animation once they are actually well prepared. So I'm going to jot these down over in the assignments channel for easier reference. So week 6, anticipation and overshoot exercises. And I would very much enjoy it if you would start, or at least picked out something to do. In the meantime, if you have any questions or anything to ask, or any difficulty, feel free to share your progress. I will be here working on the 4 keyframes that I brought and animating them fully. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be doing something as well.
I do have a quick question, just as far as like getting started and sort of planning this out. So for most of these exercises, you know, you're saying there's sort of like 3 to 4 keyframes. Do you normally? I guess which keyframe do you normally start with? Like, do you do like maybe when like the beginning of the main motion, and then you do the anticipation before that, or do you do the anticipation first and then the start of the motion, and then or I don't know, like do you do like from the anticipation to the overshoot and then you go in between, or I don't know if I don't know if that makes sense. Like if there's a good, I mean, I don't like, I'm in my mind, I'm sort of thinking like, okay, maybe you start at the, like if it's a hammer or something, or whatever, it was kicking a ball, or I'm thinking like, okay, you're kicking a ball, so like you want to have like the leg kind of bent back like it's gonna kick, and then that's one keyframe, and then another keyframe like it's actually kicking, and then you can go back and then do the anticipation before the kick starts, and then the overshoot after.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes sense.
So,
I'm just thinking like the best way to plan it, I guess.
okay. So this is key 1. This is key 1. This is the first, and it's okay if you do them extremely roughly, okay? Also, in case it wasn't clear, this is for a sneeze.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Then, once you have key 1, you can think about 2 other frames. Usually you can think either about the overshoot or the final one. The final one is probably a bit more helpful, but I find it more intuitively to go for the overshoot first. Because, or rather, I find that if I don't think too much about it, I'm usually going to do the overshoot first. Because it's easier to consider. Let me turn on the it's easier to think of this in terms of like, how far is the character going to go? And yeah, and the overshoot is how far she really goes. So if she goes all the way here, I actually need to make this go a little bit further. But yeah, it's like, this is how far the character goes. So from here, you're always going to pull back into the second key. Technically, this is not the second key you should do, but it is but to me it tends to come more naturally because it's the extreme of the motion. It's the most extreme of the motion. Do it more like this. Come on. Regardless, the very first pass you do on these isn't going to look perfect, okay? It's not going to look clean, and you're going to need to go through a few passes to really make it look clean. The point with what I was saying is that you shouldn't go into doing breakdowns and in-betweens before you have keyframes that show exactly what you want them to. That is to say, a pose like this shouldn't be all scratchy, and the lines shouldn't be clear, or rather the lines should be clear, because by the time you're going to go into the rest of the animation, you're going to be relying on the precision of all these lines to know what's happening. And everything else is going to be chaotic, because everything else is going to be in betweens, it's going to be thinner, it's going to be a lot of it. These are going to be your anchors, which means that by the time that you're going into filling out the rest of the frames, these need to be good. What I recommend you do specifically, let me go to the end of this and let me try to like do a quick a quick example of like the ball kicking, right? There's a ball and there's a person. I'm going to be very, very basic here with the person. Actually, I'm going to do a very, very somewhat even like, okay. Person sees ball. Person thinks, okay, I am going to kick ball. So this foot here now. I mean, and this is the time where it's also okay to either get up and act the motion yourself, to see how it works, or look for reference. It's not uncommon for animators to like record themselves either. Yeah, okay. So now this one is going to be more or less like this. Can still do that. But now this leg is going to be pulling back. And the ball needs to be way closer. Let's put the ball over here for both frames. Then the next one is going to be the man having kicked the ball. And losing a little bit of balance. Because this is not a good pose to kick a ball on. And then the final one would be then returning to a position of comfort. From where the person can then continue going. And these would then take, this is where I give it a couple of this, some time. Right now the timings themselves don't matter a lot because this is just to get the rough idea of the movement. Here this would have to be way, no, this would have to be way longer. This also needs to be way longer. This doesn't need to be so long. Right, I forgot to draw the ball here. Well, it doesn't need to be all over there. It can be like this. This foot would actually be looking a little bit different because that's like football and whatever. See, this is what references are good for. They tell you what things actually look like. So don't be afraid to use them. And here you can, and now this is the point where you look at this and you say, okay, this is cool, but this actually doesn't look that exaggerated. Maybe you can exaggerate it further by really making him twist. Here he was like this. Here let's have him lean forward a little bit, because this is the anticipation. So he leans contrary, then this overshoots, and then this returns to a comfortable position. Let's look at how that would go now. Let's just wait for that to pass. And in this case, you would need a lot to fill in what's in between these, right? But the point is, you do these very rough. And now that you've done these very rough, you go ahead and you clean them all up. This is also the case where you'd animate the ball on a second layer. Why would you animate the ball on a second layer? Because the ball's movement, from the moment that this keyframe happens, is no longer going to be tied to the man's movement. Which means that it's going to be helpful to animate it separately. But yes, this is basically the point of this, is you do them all together to get a rough idea of the motion. And then when you do have that rough idea of the motion, you go through them and you clean them up. Because if you don't, Can you imagine animating a full character from this? It's going to be difficult, especially if then you need to add hair, or you need to like check proportions every time. That's at the point at which you go over to your character sheets and you look at the turnarounds and you say, okay, I'm going to be doing this character, and then you take these proportions and these details and you may even trace them onto the figure if that's necessary. It usually won't be necessary, but that can happen, you know?
Mhm.
And that's okay, because you're doing animation. The point of the turnaround is precisely to be a reference. So don't be ashamed of using it as a reference, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's the ultimate thing. So yes, do be aware of making sure that your keyframes are expressive and that they get the point across. That is very, very important. Any other questions?
I think no, I think that's so. Yeah, I think I understand sort of where to start now. Like, yeah, it's like I was thinking maybe too linearly. Like, oh, you do one frame, then you do another, but it's more like you're kind of working on them all at once, and you're sort of building them up to a certain level, and then when it's like the motion is good, then you clean them up, and then like yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
That is
So
that
yeah.
is also, I'm sorry for interrupting. That is
Oh,
also
that's
the
okay.
reason why animation is not about draftsmanship, and it's also why some of the greatest Disney animators of all time were actually not that good at drawing. But they just understood this underlying part of the motion so well that they were able to create beautiful motion that then they could deliver to assistants that knew how to draw properly, and that would then go over their drawings and align the drawings to the model before they pass them on to down the pipeline for breakdowns, for all the rest of the things.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, yeah, that's an interesting point. The Disney animator, like
Not all of them.
what they,
Most
yeah,
of them are really great
for
artists.
sure,
That's
yeah,
not to deny
yeah,
them. But
yeah.
some of them weren't, and that's why. Because animation is in fact not drawing. It's the skill of motion.
Mm. Yeah, I remember a quote that I heard one time about animation where somebody said, um, animation isn't drawings that move, it's motions that are drawn. I guess.
Yeah,
Uh,
I thought that can work. That can work. No, that can definitely
uh,
work.
yeah, because yeah, I guess a lot of people say like, oh, or I mean, in the old days, maybe people would say like, oh, animation is drawings that move, but yeah, but this makes a lot more sense. I mean, like, from what you said earlier about the keyframe, it's like you're not drawing individual keyframes, you're drawing a movement made up of, so it's like a four-dimensional thing, I guess, that time is like you're drawing within the time, like not just the two-dimensional or three-dimensional image, but also the fourth dimension of time. It's getting very deep and philosophical
This
here
is
today in the animation lab. Yeah.
This is 5-dimensional chess with time travel.
Yeah.
It's not
Right.
it's not that complicated.
It's general relativity is what's happening here. It's quantum physics. It's just
Exactly.
uh Okay, well, yeah, that answers my question. Thank you. And yeah, I guess I'll get started on trying this out.
So yeah, feel free to pick a character. Some of them are easier than others. So yeah, go ahead. Good luck. If you have any questions or issues, feel free to share your screen because I believe you can. If you have any issues with and you wanna ask questions, usually that'll help.
Okay.
So this is really struggling. Okay. Anything currently ongoing that might be causing issues, or just standard exercises so far?
Well, I think so. I think I have the roughs of my keyframes. I'm doing the flower sack, kicking the ball, and maybe you can look at it and see if it's because I haven't clean like I think I'm ready to clean this up now, but I guess maybe if you can like look at it and see uh, if it needs a little work before I do that, maybe.
Sure. Screen share.
Um,
Screen share your screen,
yeah, one sec.
and
It's
I'll move it over here into the into the stream window.
okay. Okay.
Okay, there
Okay,
we
can
go. I
you
can
see
you. Now let me put this
what is it?
in full
Or
screen. I want this in full screen. Wait, where is it? There it is. Oh, it's not.
oh, it's not
There
okay.
we go. It was
What
just
am I
being
even? I don't
no,
even.
you were fine. You were fine.
Oh, I was. Oh, okay.
You were fine. I was just. It was the window that was being weird.
Oh,
Because I popped it
It
out.
didn't look like it was. It didn't look like the right thing.
Okay, there we go.
Or
I
is it?
can see now. I can see now.
Is it showing my?
It is.
Okay.
And it's going real time too. Good.
Oh, it is. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So right now I have this. So let's see. So it's like. Uh,
Okay, that's cool. I see what you're doing. You're having it rotate around the leg that stays in place, right?
yes.
Okay. That works out. I think that works out.
Easier to see.
Give the first keyframe, like, you're working on 24, right? Give the first keyframe 24 frames and the last keyframe 24 frames.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That is useful because you'll get a much neater notion of when the movement actually begins and when it actually ends. The rest of the keyframes don't change their timing, just the first one to 24 and the last one give it 24 of buffer as well.
Gotcha. Okay.
59.
50. Yeah, if I can do basic math today, that would be good. Yeah. So
No. You shouldn't have changed the spacing on that one.
oh, okay. Oh, I see. Oh, yeah, it
The
needs
last
to have.
keyframe, yeah, it's just the
needs.
space. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it
needs
just
to
needs
go all the
a new
way down.
keyframe. New keyframe. Yeah. Okay.
Or you just need to allow the video to stretch all the way to there. It doesn't
yeah. Oh, yeah. Fair. Yeah, that's probably a better way to do it. Delete that. Okay. So yeah.
Okay. That can definitely work. That can definitely work. If you're going for... let me see. Let me see. You're doing this kind of thing. Okay. Okay, so you currently have 2 overshoots. That's the thing. You don't have a resting frame for the end, right? What you currently have is a shot like those football anime where the character shoots the
Like,
ball and then he just
yeah,
stays shooting the ball, you know?
like a freeze frame or something like that.
Exactly. You don't
Okay, yeah.
actually have the resting position. That is the only
Okay,
thing.
so it would need to go back down or something. Like it would need to like kind of be like, I don't know, something like this or
Exactly.
uh
Something like that. Because you're going to finish turning. Consider the motion and the arcs a little bit better, perhaps. But yes, it would have to be something like that. Because currently what you have is the overshoot. And yes, the overshoot here is going to have to linger for a while. But you're still going to have to reach a resting position at some point. And that and the resting position doesn't need to be with both feet on the ground. Like it is possible to get a resting position where you're still only with one foot on the ground, but you definitely need to tone down the shot basically, because the one that you previously ended on, that one, no,
or this one, yeah.
that one is very much an overshoot, you know? That is
Yeah.
like how
Yeah,
far
this is
the
actually,
kick is
this is
going
a
to go.
continuation of Oh, I'm sorry, your audio cut out for a second, sorry.
Yeah, the one at like frame 36, I think, is very much the extreme position. It's the overshoot, which means that you're going to want to get a different keyframe that's going to be the resting position again.
Okay.
That is the thing that I'd have to note about that.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, so I'll work on it more, but yeah, like something where the flour sack is going back down, I guess,
Exactly.
and then
Exactly.
yeah. Okay, yeah. Actually these two, one of these would be the keyframe or something, or like this is like two. This is like just like two frames or something. You know, like I
Yeah,
guess what this.
you have two overshoots there.
Yeah, yeah. This isn't really. Yeah, these aren't these aren't two separate keyframes. It's just like something leading into the key.
Yeah, they're functionally at this stage. You don't need the one at like 33, I think.
Oh, I see.
31.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 31. Like you don't
That
need
that
the
way.
frame at 31.
Yeah.
Because it's already being done by the frame at 37.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's just the ease out or the ease out. It's like part of the ease out of that keyframe, probably.
So this is why this process is actually kind of important, because you're going to be nailing like these little details right here. And now you got to figure out a good way to like actually come to a resting position, because the one you currently have is a little blunt.
Yeah, yeah, it just stomps on the ground. Yeah.
But other than that, yes, this is very much a way to go.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I think I know what I can do now.
All
Yeah.
right.
All right, yes. I will keep working. Thank you.
I'm going to go back to mine as well. about you, Nance? Is there anything you're currently struggling with? Or have you just been watching? All right.
Sorry, I've just been watching.
Oh, okay. Okay, you just scared me.
I'm just quiet.
All right.
Uh, Nance,
Yes.
did you say before that in one of the previous classes that you used to do like animation or like After Effects
No,
stuff
no.
before?
I took a class online a couple of years ago, 2020, and I had previously through a community college, and I had taken a graphic design classes there before, and we learned how to use After Effects, which is complicated.
Yeah.
So that was my only, and I'm just getting back into this, and I'm trying to teach myself Animate, which is simpler, but it kind of some of the some of the tweening is kind of wonky. So I think I'm going to do a lot of hand drawing this time. And just bring it in.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah. I think. Yeah. I've tried to use After Effects before, and yeah, it's just.
Yeah, it's very complicated, and Animate is a little bit simpler, but I am still going over like a lot of tutorials on how to just the basics. So, starting from scratch.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What have you used before?
I haven't used Animate before.
Yeah. I don't have a
Yeah.
tablet, so.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
I before it was called Animate, it was called Flash, I
It was
think.
Flash,
And
correct.
yeah, and I did like try using that a long time ago,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's uh but yeah, I mean right now I'm using Blender, which is a pretty cool like free program.
Right, right. Uh-huh.
But yeah, but it's just but yeah, there's definitely a learning curve to this.
Oh, exactly. I'm doing everything all at once. I'm learning everything all at once, so,
Yeah.
But I have the time, so it's good.
But yeah, I saw. I think you did you did like you did the pendulum thing, right?
I
was
did,
was,
yes.
that,
That was
and
Animate, yes.
that was an
Yeah.
Animate. Okay.
That was Animate, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I think like I mean, I think this is definitely some of these exercises are probably doable even without a tablet.
Right, yeah.
Or-
And I think I'm going to do just import more hand drawing instead of using any more tweening because it's kind of funky. So
Oh.
it's just,
Oh,
yeah.
like
Kind of,
it's like
yeah.
scanning it in. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So, because some of the things I was using on Animate, some of the tweens were just producing really strange results. So I'll just do it the old-fashioned way and just bring it into there. So.
Beatrice, have you ever done like yeah, I guess have you ever done like paper animation and
Traditional? Yes, I have
or
done traditional
paper,
animation.
yeah.
For what it's worth, I actually haven't done motion graphics before.
Oh.
I have no idea how to do motion I mean, the principles are the same, right? But like, I have no idea like how to use the tools for motion graphics. Like
Yeah, probably, probably the same kind of principles, but you're using, a lot of people that in motion graphics do like, introductions and stuff for the web and stuff,
Yeah, I had a
credits.
friend in college that did do some motion graphic stuff for animation class.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. She did a really
Yeah.
good job.
Yeah. I also want to do stop motion too. That sounds like fun.
Whew, that's a
I've
difficult
started
one.
a character already, so.
Oh, nice.
Stop motion is difficult.
Yeah, I haven't I'm just starting to make a character, so I haven't gotten very far, but
Are you? Is it like clay on top of like a metal wire, that kind of
I'm
thing?
making the head. Actually, I'm going to do my husband. I'm making the head out of it's something called Premiere. It's like paper clay. Um, it's like it's a paper type clay that dries, and you can sand it, and it's nice and lightweight. But I haven't finished that yet, and then I have to get to the body, so I'm just in the very beginning.
Take your time.
Yeah, I know. I'm retired now, so I got plenty of time.
Yeah, it's a good use
I know,
of
exactly.
animation. I can,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
So cool.
yeah.
So cool. I love, yeah.
And Beatrice, I know, like I'm intrigued by this story that you're working on. Or what are your plans for like Rita and all these other characters that you're making? Is it like are you going to make like an animated, like a short or a series, or like a comic, or
My scope has become more realistic over the years. I'm just aiming for a short now.
okay? It was going to be a feature film
No,
before or
no,
something, or
no, no,
yeah,
no.
okay.
If you go back like 3 years, it was supposed to be like a series, and then I did my
Ah,
first, and then I did the first short, and then I thought never again. So
wow,
yes,
yeah.
the scope has become more realistic over time.
Right. Well, I guess that's what happens with experience, right? I guess as you realize how much time things actually take, maybe, or I don't know.
Absolutely,
Uh,
it is.
Yeah.
It
yeah.
is. That's very true. That is very true. And you'll be surprised because the one short that I've done, I mean, quite frankly, like I say this, a lot of people say they like it, but like quite frankly, I hate it.
Hmm.
Oh, is it up on like YouTube or
It
or
is. It
something, or
is.
Vimeo or something?
It
Oh,
is.
yeah.
Wait, I can find
Nice.
it. I have like all my stuff on YouTube. Um,
Yeah.
I took a significant break. It's in the Shuri channel, and it's this one. It's Harni Amichi Hakuno Tamashi. That's the one short that I
Oh.
did, which wasn't about Rita. It was about Nomari, which is this character. Which is there's a very long story here that does not
Oh.
pertain to class. But if y'all are willing,
Sure.
I'm down to stay
Yeah.
here and chat for a bit.
Uh-huh.
But I'm going to close the class real quick,
Okay.
and then just we can just continue because this is no longer class. So if either of you have any questions now or anything to ask, now's the time.
I'm good. Just gonna
Because I'm
dive
gonna
in and
close
try
this.
it.
As I'm gonna close it then. So yes, thank you both for coming. We will
Thank you.
return once more next week for the next animation lab session, which is theme I can't actually remember right now. So remember to check out ToonCamp and all the other affiliated servers, for there's a lot of really cool stuff happening over there. And also, as I said, from tomorrow onward, because it's already 30th of November for me, from December onward, there's going to be a daily sketch challenge that I'm going to be running in the ToonCamp server. In case you're interested in sketching some stuff, it's not going to be animation. That takes way too long to do daily.
Right.
It's just going to
So
be sketches.
where do we find it? Where do we find it?
It's going to be made very clear once I post the first things, but
Okay.
under activities,
Oh, activities. Okay.
there's a channel called Art Prompt, and that's
Art
going to
Prompt.
be the channel where the prompts are going to be placed
Okay.
and where the sketches are supposed to be posted as well.
Okay.
So yes, thank you both for coming.
Thank you very much. I really
Yeah.
like having homework, even though I haven't been much success, but it really just keeps me going, you know, that I have something to focus on very concretely. So
Yeah, I can feel that.
otherwise, yeah.
And yeah, so see you next week.
Okay. Have a good week, all you all. Take care.
Yep.
You too.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.